Is the American Confederacy still celebrated in Brazil? The internet says it's true. Hey, welcome to The Internet Says It's True, where every week we learn something that sounds like I made it up, but it's really true. Part of the WCBE podcast experience. My name is Michael Kent, and this is episode 145, another rewind episode because I am still on a ship, currently in Halifax. Remember, if you want to watch the video of me interviewing our guests each week, you can do that by becoming a Tizitor and joining Patreon. That's the only place you can access Joke Story Trick. That was, of course, the live web show I did during the pandemic. There are 65 episodes of that and only available when you become a Tizitor. In other words, sign up for $1 a month or more, and you can find all of that. It's patreon.com/Michael Kent, and you can now sign up for a free trial. So if you're on the fence about joining the Patreon, you can sign up just to see what it looks like for a week. Anyway, once again, patreon.com/Michael Kent. There's also a link in the show notes. If you are listening from the Chicago, Illinois area, I'll be in Chicago for 6 shows at the Chicago Magic Lounge next weekend. That's the 15th through the 18th. Those tickets are available at chicagomagiclounge.com. Then I'll be back in Columbus for 4 shows at the P3 Magic Theater on the 23rd, 24th of June. Those tickets are available at p3magictheater.com. So if you want to see me perform magic, you can get those tickets. You can see me live. Now, for today's episode, we're going to talk about a weird immigration story that happened after the Civil War. This was not immigration to the U.S., but immigration to Brazil. This was originally released on September 27th of 2021. Well, you may or may not know that I'm a history buff, and in particular, I'm fascinated with the American Civil War. So this is one of those stories that I did know a little bit about, but not a ton, and we haven't done an episode about it. So I was happy to spend the week to learn about it. It's super interesting to me. We see immigrants at our borders on the news every day. For those who live in border states, you may see them as part of your daily life. They're people who are fleeing their country in the hopes that this new country provides a better life. Well, this story is about a different type of immigration, a time when immigrants left the U.S. Something you hear a lot when it comes to patriotism or politics is love it or leave it. This idea that if you have a complaint about this country or its government, that you should just leave. This story is about a group of people who took that seriously. In 1865, the American Civil War came to an end. Between the months of April and June, most of the Confederate soldiers surrendered. It had been 4 years of bloody battles and around 750,000 dead, 2.5% of the total U.S. population. Lincoln had a plan for Reconstruction that was a threat to what many considered the Southern way of living. Freed slaves would have joined the working class, they would have been given their own land, and amnesty would be given to those Confederate soldiers who took up arms against the United States. Lincoln wanted a swift reunification, and so his plan was based on forgiveness. But as we know, Lincoln was assassinated soon after the end of the war. And while his successor, Andrew Johnson, wouldn't carry out Lincoln's vision for Reconstruction, many Confederate soldiers worried about living in a country that didn't hold their values. Others had lost their land. Starting just before the Civil War, America was experiencing westward expansion. The building of the railroad that connected the East with the West and the Homestead Act had people flocking west. In fact, the argument as to whether these new territories would be slave states or free states was one of the significant factors to the start of the war in the first place. After the war, a lot of Confederate soldiers moved out of the South. They went west, seeking out fortune and a new life. For some of the leaders of the Confederate Army, amnesty wasn't initially extended to them. Jefferson Davis spent 2 years in a Virginia prison. When he was released, he fled to Canada, then England. His vice president, Alexander Stephens, was held in a Boston prison until October, when President Johnson released him. He wouldn't flee the country at all and instead went on to be a U.S. congressman and the governor of Georgia. Robert E. Lee fought against black voting rights after the war and ended up poor and homeless before he was eventually made the head of Washington College. General George Pickett fled to Canada for 2 years until he was pardoned. But for some of the soldiers who still deeply held their Confederate pro-slavery values, they sought out to create new Confederate colonies outside of the U.S. One plan was for a place called the New Virginia Colony. The main settlement was planned in Carlota, halfway between Mexico City and Veracruz in Mexico. But there were as many as 4 other colonies planned throughout Mexico. There were a few problems. Mexico wouldn't allow them to bring slaves, and eventually, the Confederate-friendly Emperor of Mexico was overrun with Mexican Republicans who didn't approve of the Confederate settlers. Other Confederate colonies were attempted in Belize, Paraguay, and Cuba. But the most widespread and successful attempt at a new Confederate colony occurred in the Brazilian state of São Paulo. We'll talk about that after a quick message. If you love listening to this podcast every week and you want to show your support, that would mean a great deal to me. You can do that by becoming a Patreon member. We've got members at all levels, whether you want to pledge $1 a month or $10 a month. Just think about the value that you receive from this show. And if you like the histories and the stories that you learn about or the jokes that you hear, and if you think that they're worth it, consider signing up. For that, you get every episode ad-free and a week early, access to bonuses like the unedited videos of the guest appearances, and 20% off all merchandise. You can sign up today at patreon.com/Michael Kent. That's patreon.com/Michael Kent. There was a time that humans used 100% organic products as healing balms and moisturizers for their skin. Well, I've partnered with an awesome company that wants to get back to those times. Fatco sells organic and responsibly made tallow-based skincare products. For centuries, humans used tallow in skin moisturizers and healing balms, but unfortunately, the topical application of these fats seemed to stop around the same time that animal fats stopped being considered part of a healthy diet. A lot of modern skincare products do more harm than good by stripping your skin of its natural oils. Let's change that. You can try them out now at fatco.com and get 15% off your order by using my promo code INTERNET. Go to theinternetsaysitstrue.com/deals for the link. There's a small cemetery south of Santa Barbara do Oeste in Brazil. It's called Cemitério dos Americanos, and there are several generations of American immigrants buried there, almost 500 interments in total. Every year in April, there's an unapologetic festival at the cemetery celebrating all things Confederate, the Festa Confederada. Members of the community meet to eat foods from the American South, fried chicken, French fries. They listen to country music, they dress up in Confederate uniforms and antebellum dresses, and they dance. The dance floor, a permanent outdoor surface, depicts a giant Confederate flag. It's a celebration of Brazil's interpretation of the Confederacy, stewarded by Brazilians who are the descendants of the Confederate immigrants who moved there from America more than 150 years ago. I went to their Instagram, and it is absolutely bizarre. You'll find a combination of Confederate flags, American bikers, women in ornate Civil War hoop dresses, men in costume, Trump flags, lots of imagery of this quasi-American fake patriotism. Pictures of the festival include other icons of a conservative anti-government America, like the Gadsden Don't Tread on Me flag. This one was particularly sickening. One Memorial Day post says, "In honor of the fallen," with a pair of oak leaves, but inside the oak leaves is the Confederate flag. Why here? Why in the middle of Brazil? In 1865, slavery was still legal in Brazil. In fact, it was the last of the Western countries to outlaw slavery in 1888. Brazil relied on African enslaved people all the way back to the 16th century, when the country developed a lucrative mining industry. Around 40% of the 11 million Africans that were forced into slavery in the Atlantic slave trade were brought to Brazil to work on sugarcane plantations. In addition to sugarcane, Dom Pedro II, Brazil's emperor, wanted to develop a lucrative cotton industry in Brazil. He offered southern farmers cheap land, tax breaks, and free travel to his country in order to cultivate this new industry. While some Confederate leaders discouraged Southerners from emigrating to Brazil, thousands did anyway. No one is sure exactly how many Confederates fled to São Paulo. Conservative estimates put the number at around 8,000, but port records of Rio de Janeiro show that as many as 20,000 Americans entered Brazil after the war. These were people who no longer identified with an America that didn't value a slave-holding agricultural South. They were people who didn't want to feel conquered and saw the South without slavery as a South that would live in poverty. So they took Dom Pedro II up on his offer, and they fled by the thousands. Many fled to Santa Barbara do Oeste, a city northwest of Campinas. Others founded the city of Americana to the east, and it was there that these Americans put down roots. Some returned to the U.S. once Reconstruction failed and the Jim Crow era began, but most stayed. So for now, in 2021, their legacy still continues. And just like the lost cause narrative replaced the truth here in the States, the same is true for the proxy confederacy that still exists 3,000 miles from where the Civil War ended. Today, the history and legacy of the Confederados that left the U.S. is still held up by a group called the Fraternity of the American Descendants. Marcelo Dodson is a past president of the group, and in the 2017 aftermath of the white nationalist rally in Charlottesville, Virginia, he made the argument that the Civil War was a battle not for slavery, but for small government, free commerce, and states' rights. This, of course, is a view of the conflict with which most historians disagree. In an era where more and more Americans disagree with the flying of the Confederate flag in the U.S., the internet says it's true. It still flies proudly and strangely in one small part of Brazil. Well, now it is time for the part of the podcast where I call a friend, and today I'm lucky to have Jackie Tohn on the show. Jackie is an actress, singer, and comedian who is best known for her role as Melrose on the Netflix series Glow. She also hosted Netflix's cooking competition series Best Leftovers Ever, and she currently stars, along with Kristen Bell and Luke Youngblood, as the voice of Ray in the Amazon Prime original animated series Do, Ray, and Me, of which she is also a co-creator and co-writer of the music on the show.
Hi, how are you?
I am awesome. Now, we met because you used to perform in a lot of colleges. And that's currently what I do, is I tour colleges. Do you still do any of that work? Are you still touring colleges at all, or is television and movies keeping you busy?
Well, luckily, the latter sort of, but I was actually just telling someone about the college life the other day, and it was harrowing, Michael. It's no joke, especially for I was a young, little, tiny, mousy woman, girl almost at the time, alone, taking 3 flights to get to Kearney, Nebraska,
right,
in the middle of the night, renting a car in a dark, tiny airport that no one was even working at, and they would leave you the keys in a key box, and you'd swipe your credit card, and then I would drive in the middle of the night on these random roads, maybe or maybe didn't have service, get to a La Quinta,
yeah,
that construction workers were staying in, and being
God.
Hey, is that a guitar? And I'm like, oh yes, I gotta go to my room. Can you play me something?
Yeah.
And I was telling a homegirl of mine, and she was like, that's terrifying. And I was like, oh, it was like that all the time. And I just did it for 5 years at least.
Yeah, I'm on year 17 of this.
Hundreds of shows. You've probably done thousands.
Yeah, I haven't added them up, but probably. I mean, it's been 17 years, and I'm still doing it once again after the pandemic, and all that stuff it's exactly the same as what you just described. I mean, literally last week I was in a hotel, and I was the only non-construction worker in the hotel.
But imagine you being a woman.
Oh, very different for me. Yeah, absolutely.
Because at one time I was telling my friend I went to a hotel and I had to leave.
Ooh.
It was like an indoor-outdoor motel, and it was all construction workers were staying there because I guess they were working on the road in this random rural area. And God bless construction workers, amazing, hardworking gentlemen. Just this particular group of them were acting crazily and probably hadn't seen a woman in a minute. And they were there was a window. I was walking, like a motel where the doors are right to the street. So I walked up the stairs and I'm walking across the top floor, and there was a window and it was open and their blinds were open, and they were getting shit canned. And as I walked by, they started banging on the window.
Oh no.
Oh yes. So I called the front desk and I was like, hey, I don't know that I should stay here. And the woman at the front desk said, darling, I don't know that you should stay here.
Oh no! If she's not into it, you're definitely that is not a
So
ringing endorsement of her establishment.
So
Holy cow!
she walked me from my room to my car.
Oh, good for
and
her.
My boyfriend at the time and his dad were like online finding me another hotel and telling me how to get there because I had no service.
Wow. Oh, well, I'm glad you don't have to do that anymore.
Thank you. Me too.
Let's get into this quiz. I like to keep the topic of the show a secret from guests. So the show is about stories that are true, but that most people probably don't know. So I'm genuinely curious if my guests have heard of these things. And there are stakes. So for this first question, we're playing for a celebrity impression. So if you get it right, celebrity impression of my choice. And I'll make it easy because I know what's in your wheelhouse, I think. If you get it wrong, I'll do a celebrity impression of your choice, which will be super entertaining because I don't do celebrity impressions.
Me neither. Okay, let's go.
Okay, after the Civil War, 10 to 20,000 Confederate sympathizers and soldiers moved to which one of these locations? A, Southern California, B, Russia, or C, Brazil?
Brazil.
You are correct. The answer is Brazil. It was not Southern California or Russia.
It would not be Southern California because then we wouldn't all be,
Yeah. Some did move for the gold rush and everything was happening. But Brazil, like a whole bunch of people moved to Brazil, started a colony, and it's still there to this day with descendants of Confederate soldiers and Confederate flags and everything. It's bizarre. I was just
going to say, are they still waving those stupid flags?
They do. And they have a festival every year, like the Festa Confederados or something, where it's crazy. It's bizarre. They dress up in Confederate garb.
Holding on to that is really okay.
It is. It's crazy. And even there, it's sort of changed over the years, right? So it's like they're really celebrating the Gone with the Wind. It's not a real. They don't really know. They don't have that pain that we have here.
Yeah, and the people that have been through that. Yeah, wow.
All right, so real quick, give me a celebrity. I'll do an impression for you.
Your celebrity impression that I would like you to do today, Michael, is Al Pacino.
Hey, that's my Al Pacino. It's just a one word. I can't do celebrity impressions. I shouldn't have set myself up.
It's almost like you won that one because I have an impression of Al Pacino and it's ooh-ah.
It's much better than mine. I was going to give you Rosanna Dana because I know that's in your wheelhouse and you could.
You don't know that I'm not going to get the next one wrong, baby.
Love it. Okay, so for this next question, we're playing for a magic trick. If you get it right, I'll perform a magic trick for you. If you get it wrong, you don't have to do one, but you don't get to see me do one for you.
Okay.
So, have you ever been to Brazil, by the way? It's not your question. I'm just curious.
No.
Okay.
Also, not a question I could get wrong.
It's true. That wasn't the one. Which one of these cities is the largest city in Brazil? Is it A, Sao Paulo, B, Rio de Janeiro, or C, Buenos Aires?
Oh, wow. So when you first asked the question, I was going to say Sao Paulo because I just was. So I'll just go with it, Sao Paulo.
Jackie Tohn, you have won a magic trick. You are going to get to see me perform magic because you got that right. Rio is probably a more famous city, right? But Sao Paulo has twice as many people as Rio, and Buenos Aires is in Argentina, so not even in Brazil.
Rio de Janeiro.
Mamma mia. This is let me get a quick video of this. Watch this. We'll just sort of zoom in. Now, magic isn't good for podcasting. But if I take the phone, can you see that very well? Are we zoomed in enough? Okay, we'll just take the phone. I hope this works. And just what?
Oh, well, that was
there is no phone. There you go. I made a cell phone vanish for those of you listening. If you want to see that, Patreon, it's like only $1 a month. You can see magic tricks on there, and you can see the video of this whole interview. You are currently working on a show that you co-created and you wrote the songs for. It's called Do, Re, and Me, which is an animated Amazon Prime exclusive for preschool age viewers. Tell us what the show's about.
Do, Re, and Me is, as you said, an animated preschool musical series where we sort of sneak teach kids about music. So it's a fully musical show. these three little birds, Do, Ray, and Me, are on a musical journey in every episode. And at the end of the episode, there's a song sort of culminating their journey throughout the course of the episode. But we wanted to make it so when the song happened at the end of the episode, it wasn't the first time the kids heard it. So everything happening in the episode leading up to the end is informing the song. It's the melodies from the song. They're walking on a piano walkway that's sort of playing the song. If they
Wow.
go to the falsetto forest, the trees are playing melodies from the song. So they're getting all this musical input. And then by the time they get to the song at the end of the app, they go like, I know this. Like I can sing and dance along to this because I've been
That's
hearing it for the other 10 minutes. And
that's really
every
unique.
I thank you. Every episode has a musical lesson, an emotional lesson, and a musical genre. And so we had a 50 episode. This is wild. We have a 50 episode first season. So my co-songwriter and I had to come up with. I mean, this was my my idea. So it was I didn't realize how much I was going to have my work cut out for me. I
Yeah.
think I had all these sort of like wild and childlike harebrained ideas, and then I had to execute them. And I was like, different story.
Yeah.
Um, but so, yeah, I mean, by the time we got to genre 20, we were like, I guess we're going to have to dip into specifics like 80s Whitney Houston or Queen or singer songwriter, or like this one sounds like John Mayery. Like we got pretty specific.
Wow.
Um, yeah, and so the show is out on Amazon Prime, and basically every episode, kids learn. They don't just listen to music and follow these birdies on their rad emotional journey, which they would just love anyway,
Yeah.
but they're also learning lyrics and dynamics and beat and instrument recognition.
Wow. I feel like I want to watch this. I'm not of preschool age, but
You'll love it.
this seems
What are
interesting
you?
to me.
Are you 6? Because it's for 2 to 5, and you're 6. You're
I'm
like
just out of
outside.
the age range, but I feel like I can still kind of fit in there.
You'll
So
love it.
that's awesome. Let's move on to question 3. And for this question, we always play for the same prize. It's a coveted The Internet Says It's True sticker.
Wow.
This is a very valuable 3-inch by 3-inch sticker of the show's logo, and these are hard to come by, very valuable. The question is this, and it's a multiple choice. What happened to the Confederate gold after the Civil War? A. Nobody knows because it vanished and it hasn't been found to this day. B. It was confiscated by the Union Army and used to make the dome on the U.S. Capitol building. Or C. It was melted down and is still being used today to make Emmy Awards.
Emmy Awards aren't real gold. Dome on the Capitol building, you'd think people would be trying to pick that off if it was actual gold, but it probably has good security. A, nobody knows.
You are correct. Nobody knows, and to this day, it hasn't been found. So this is according to War History Online. The Confederate treasury was first kept in New Orleans, but as Union troops approached in 1862, it was moved to Georgia at the Iron Bank owned by William H. Young. On October 11th of that year, Confederate General Pierre Gustave Toussaint Beauregard ordered it moved once more.
Toussaint Beauregard.
Toussaint-Beauregard, hyphenated French last name, ordered it moved once more. But what happened after that remains a mystery. There are still people out there looking for it 150 some years later. So yeah, you get a sticker. I'll mail you a sticker.
Why,
Speaking
thank you.
of Emmy Awards, you starred as Melrose in the Netflix series Glow, which is about glorious ladies of wrestling. I had the trading cards when I was a kid of glorious ladies of wrestling.
Yeah.
Loved it. It received 18 Emmy nominations, won 3 Emmys. One of those was Outstanding Stunt Coordination. So my question to you is, did you do your own stunts? And if so, what was that like to learn wrestling moves?
Oh man, the great joy of my life. One of the great joys of my life. I'm lucky enough, I think, to have more than a single great joy at the moment. Oh my God. I was just thinking yesterday, you're hitting on so many things. I really miss Glow. First of all, the pandemic, we were in the middle of making a season 4
Yeah.
in March of 2020, and the pandemic shut us down. And people couldn't conceive of how to get 15 women in a wrestling ring breathing on each other during a pandemic, how to make that happen in a safe way, which makes sense, but it's devastating. And we never went back.
Wow.
We just never finished the show, and it's gone now. But yes, we trained for a month before every season. So we trained for a month before season 1, we basically all got in the ring together. That was the first time we ever met. We're all in like leggings and tank tops being like, hey, I'm Jackie. Hey, I'm Kate Nash.
What a great icebreaker.
I mean, and you're like, within minutes, you're in each other's like crotches. I mean, you're just like, cool, nice to meet you there. And we absolutely did our own stunts, 100%. We didn't even have stunt doubles. We didn't even have them. It's wild to think about. Like,
yeah.
I think looking back now, it's similar to, no, I mean, colleges were not great and Glow was incredible. But looking back, when you sort of like have that moment of like, I can't believe I did that.
Yeah.
I didn't have fear. I had insecurity at the very beginning. And of course, I brought my wise ass in like day 1 of training. I was like, hey, just going to make a quick announcement. Like, if anyone's nervous to be here and thinks they can't do this, like, fear not, look in my direction. I'll be worse at this than you, and you can just go home feeling really good about yourself. That's my self-deprecating, codependent icebreaker where I put myself down to make everybody else feel better. I'm working on it. But it turned out I could wrestle. And so the stunt coordinator, would always play that back for me when I would body slam someone. She would go like, hey, just remember how you can't do any of this, and you're the person who's not athletic, and you've never thrown or a ball or kicked a ball or caught a ball, and you just body slammed Ellen. Just quick reminder of the stories you've told yourself your whole life. And I think the best part about Glow was really removing those limitations I had on myself of like, I grew up as such an, I mean, not a theater kid, but like such an actor kid, an entertainer kid that like, there was no universe I was going to be able to, in my mind, be able to do that. And I just could.
That's amazing. What a cool thing to have in your pocket.
Right?
Like now, so if you would have had that before the college tours, you maybe could have stayed in that hotel.
You know what I'm saying?
You could have fixed those construction workers and it would have been done.
The only problem with that was they had numbers on me and they have size on me.
Yeah.
The girl that I body slammed, Ellen Wong, is like 95 pounds, soaking wet, covered in noodles. She's like this big.
Covered in noodles.
Just like.
Unbelievable. So you'll get a sticker. Question 4. For this question, we're going to play for 5 Twitter followers. If you get it right, I'll do my best to get you 5 Twitter followers. If you get it wrong, you got to get me 5 Twitter followers.
Right.
When Abraham Lincoln was assassinated in April of 1865, they found a peculiar item in his wallet. Which one of these was it? Little mystery. A, was it the lyrics to Yankee Doodle Dandy? B, a Confederate $5 bill that had Jefferson Davis's picture on it? Or C, a photograph of his niece, Heather Dante?
It was a Confederate $5 bill.
Final answer?
Yes.
You are correct. It was a Confederate $5 bill. You are killing this quiz, Jackie.
You know how I knew it wasn't the third one?
So tell us how you knew it wasn't a photograph of his niece, Heather Dante.
Couple reasons. Abraham Lincoln did not have a niece with a New Jersey Italian name, Heather Dante. A, and B, I played Heather Dante on The Sopranos. So you just pulled that and threw it in. What if I didn't catch it?
What if you didn't? What if you said, he could have had a niece, Heather?
20 years ago. That was over 20 years ago.
20 years ago. You were.
It was 1998.
You played a friend of Meadow on The Sopranos.
I did.
1998? Are you kidding me? Oh my gosh. I was in college.
I've been in the game a minute, babe.
Yeah, I was in college being in the marching band. That's what I was doing in 1998.
Doing magic tricks behind a tuba.
Yeah, it was a drum. It was a drum. But it's saying I was very popular on the band bus doing magic tricks.
Okay.
According to Smithsonian Magazine, Lincoln may have gotten this $5 bill when he visited Petersburg and Richmond earlier in the month. And and Heather Dante was the name of your character on The Sopranos. That was an early season? Season 1. Yes.
Wow. What's crazy about that is I was supposed to be recurring on that show. And then the creator of the show's daughter dropped out of college and she'd been acting, and I was Heather, and I was Meadow's best friend, and then she dropped out of college, and then I was no longer on the show, and then she played a character named Hunter who was Meadow's best friend.
Yeah, Hunter was recurring.
Sort of like the two Darrens on Bewitched, where it was like, where did that one girl go? Weird.
Oh, man. And what do you need? Isn't it
Oh,
like...
the heartbreak of the entertainment business. That was like my first. And you know what's funny is I didn't even know it was really my first big gig because when I told people I was doing a show called The Sopranos and I'm a singer, they were like, "Oh, but you're an alto." I was like, "Oh Christ!" But nobody knew what that show was. It wasn't one of the most iconic shows to ever be on television in 1998. No one heard of it. No one knew what was going on.
Yeah, and now it's legendary. Question 5. This one is for all the marbles. And if you get this wrong, I'm banning you from my podcast. You'll never be asked on again. If you get it right, I would love to have you back sometime. And this is a question that we've asked our guests for the last few weeks. And I've stuck with this one because I enjoy the answers. What piece of advice would you give to 17-year-old Jackie Tohn?
Ooh. I mean, I kind of just know the answer to that. So I would tell 17-year-old Jackie Tohn, I mean, listen, I got to hand it to 17-year-old Jackie Tohn. She moved across the country. I look at how fearless, I almost feel like the question should be, what advice would 17-year-old Jackie Tohn give to current Jackie Tohn?
Oh, okay.
Because that would be like, but I don't even know that 17-year-old Jackie Tohn knew she was being fearless. She was just being.
Yeah.
Like when I dropped out of college and moved across the country and was like, cool, I'm in LA now. I'll find a place to live and somehow I'll make enough money to do something. Like there was that childlike naivete that made it work. Like I just was like, there's no universe this isn't going to work. And listen, I wasn't a crazy working actor making a ton of money by any means, but I made it work enough. I found stuff in LA to do. I found friends to work for. I found gigs here and there. So that's the advice that 17-year-old Jackie would give to current Jackie is just like foster and find that fearlessness again, to just know you can do the thing and then figure out how to do it. Like there was no self-doubt in 17-year-old Jackie. Create. That's basically what current Jackie would give to every version of Jackie up until a few years ago. Make stuff.
Well, I'm glad that you have the ability to look back on that. And that is a correct answer. And so you do get the points. And I would love to have you back on the show.
You did it! Congratulations!
It was wonderful. Wonderful. So once again, you can catch Jackie Tohn voicing the character Ray on Do, Ray, and Me on Amazon Prime. You can follow her Instagram or Twitter. It's at Jackie Tohn, Tohn. Thank you for taking the time to hang out with me this week. I really appreciate it, and I would love to have you back on the show sometime.
Happy to anytime. I'm going to go walk my dog.
Oh. Well, that's all for this week. Thank you so much to Jackie Tohn for being my guest. Here's a young child who tears down Confederate statues for fun.
Thank you for listening to The Internet Says It's True. To listen to episodes ad-free and a week early, support us on Patreon. You can do that at patreon.com/Michael Kent. If you learned something just now that you didn't already know, go to the Apple Podcast app and leave us a review with 5 stars and a few words. That helps us a ton, because that's how the algorithm works. I don't know what an algorithm is, but just do it! See you next week for a brand new episode of The Internet Says It's True!
The Internet Says It's True would like to thank the Patreon subscribers whose monthly contributions help to make this show possible. Sean Brown, Denny Corby, Joshua Endress, Dallas Ray, Bryce Swanson, Eugene Anderson, Jim and Joanne Martin, Mitch and Andrew Joseph Kemplin, and the show's official Emperor Kick Track. The show is written and produced by me, Michael Kent. Theme song is by Finite Music Forge. All audio clips in this episode are used for education and commentary and used under Fair Use Title 17 USC Section 107. You can listen to past episodes by searching for The Internet Says It's True wherever you get your podcasts, and you can see bonus content at patreon.com/Michael Kent. The Internet Says It's True is part of the WCBE podcast experience.